Hi, this is Dr. Anthony Everett. I am with BSK Theological Seminary, and I am the director of the Siloam Project as well as a faculty administrator here. And today we have both with us Abby Sizemore. She is our director of admissions at BSK Theological Seminary. And we also have one of our alums, Jordan. Announce your name, Jordan.
Jordan Conley.
Jordan Conley. And so we have the two of them here today. We're going to go ahead and do a quick interview with both of them. One of the things that I do is I teach contextual ministry. So what's important to me is the context that our students are in. I think I'll start off with Abby. I wanted to ask you, Abby, what do you see, what context do you see our students that are coming, where are they coming from when they come to BSK? And where are the places that we need to focus in on?
I think the context of BSK students is rather unique because most of our students, if not all of our students, are working in congregations full-time as they are students. So whereas in a lot of other theological education contexts, students are trained in seminaries and then sent out into congregational contexts, our students are already serving in those churches and in parachurch ministries as well. So because of that, they're bringing the context of the congregations they serve into the classroom. We have students in over 19 different states. We have students in Black churches, students in white churches. We have students who are serving as senior pastors, students who are youth ministers. We have students who are ministers at rural churches and urban churches. So because of that, we have such varied contexts of congregational ministry that is brought into our classes. And these are students who are already on the ground doing important work within churches when they come to our classes.
Okay. And so one of the things that is important in ministry life is that of chaplaincy and those types of services that we provide, not just the church. How do you see, in terms of chaplaincies, students that are coming in? What are you seeing there?
Yeah. We have students who are working in hospital chaplaincy. We do that through our CPE program. We have some students who have done military chaplaincy as well. And then we have students, for instance, Jordan, who worked in the funeral home industry as well while he was a student. So we've had students who have been doing a variety of, chaplaincy vocations as well while they were students, and through our pastoral care program are being trained and bringing those contexts into the classroom to discuss in those pastoral care classes as well.
Okay. Jordan, I want to ask you a few questions. First, I have to say that I've been impressed with you from when I first met you in terms of what you're doing in Louisville, Kentucky, and your ministry, and you just, you have, it's something to be said about a good name of someone who's doing the work of ministry, and you have that. And wanted to get an idea from you in terms of your context. How has BSK influenced your context? How has it been one of growth and growing? If you could share with us.
Sure, absolutely. BSK came into my life in a way that made theological education accessible for me when I was working a full-time career. Abby alluded to so many of our students, having careers and coming to BSK to pursue their theological education. I was the same way. I was a licensed funeral director in Louisville, working at a funeral home for nearly 8 years before I was called at Crescent Hill. So the whole time I was at BSK, especially as we had pastoral care courses and all, I really had the opportunity to take what I was learning in the classroom and practice that with some of the families that we served at the funeral home. I served over 150 families a year. Wow. And that career, in my mind, was never simply a career, but it was a ministry to families who were experiencing trauma and needed help. And that's how I came to BSK, that's where theological education found me at that time, and it led to where I am now. Co-pastor at Crescent Hill Baptist Church. Before that, served for a year as interim youth minister at Crescent Hill. And I've been a member of that church since 2014. So when we talk about homegrown ministry, that really has been my experience with BSK and Crescent Hill.
Yeah, that's excellent. And the homegrown ministries is something that we do that's we're trying to grow people right where they are in the ministries, and you're an excellent example of that. One thing I would say also you're an excellent example of in your ministry is us, BSK, bringing theology to the church itself. And I know that you invited me to come and to speak to a group there that in your church, I'll say, is predominantly white church, but you had me come to speak with them about anti-racism and being an anti-racist church, and it was a beautiful experience. And so, could you express more of that in terms of your vision in bringing theology to the local church, as well as that focus on anti-racism?
Sure. Well, during class at BSK, it really didn't matter what class we were in, whether we were in ethics or if we were talking about church history. Our faculty always asked us the question, what does this look like for you in your context? What does this look like for the church that you'll be called to serve? And so there was this beautiful contextual framework put around all of the conversations we were having in class. And so when we talked about black and womanist theology, when we talked about racial justice issues, I was in seminary during 2020. So that was the Breonna Taylor, which of course happened in Louisville, in our city. George Floyd, all of that was unfolding as I was a seminary student. So racial justice really was at the forefront of my experience in the classroom at BSK. And we had just undergone a process to re-examine our curriculum and to teach students racial justice from the black perspective. And from the black church perspective. It was a wonderful, eye-opening experience for me. And thankfully, my predecessor at Crescent Hill, Jason Crosby, had already worked to build relationships with BSK, with Simmons College of Kentucky in Louisville, with St. Stephen Baptist Church and Dr. Kevin Cosby. So we had a wonderful opportunity to say, how can we come alongside folk and advocate for folk during this time.
Okay. And Simmons College of Kentucky is an HBCU, historically black college and university in Kentucky. Yeah. So thank you, Jordan. Yeah. Abby, I go back to you. I want to ask, the seminary just received the award from the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship. It was a Racial Justice Award, McCall Award. Could you talk a little bit about that and how the work of bringing in these students that are coming from these diverse backgrounds, how that plays into all of that?
Yeah. When I started at BSK, I started in 2017, and that was right after, I think, January of that year is when Dr. Kevin Cosby had invited BSK onto the college or onto the campus of Simmons College. And so I started that summer in July. And so when I came in as director of admissions at BSK, this partnership had already begun. And what has transpired over the last 7 years has been life-changing for me, and I know has been really integral in the history of the seminary as well. From that time in 2017, I think because of those partnerships that were established with Simmons College and then in 2020 with the NBCA, because of those partnerships, our student body has drastically changed. As you mentioned, we received today the Emmanuel McCall Racial Trailblazer Award, which we're very excited about. We began in 2020 this journey of expanding our student body into multiple different states. In doing so, we were able to partner as the official seminary of the National Baptist Convention of America. And with our students being spread across the U.S., our student body went from being a fully white institution in those first years that I was at BSK and before that. And then now our student body is over 70% African American. And so going back to your first question about context, all of those students are bringing their context into the classroom as well. And so we have Black students talking about their church context with their white peers and white colleagues and vice versa. So all of our students are being able to hear, rather than being in an echo chamber with their co-students, are able to hear from others in multiple different contexts. But to your question about the McCall Award, I think for us that was a really great recognition of the work that we've been doing, but it was work, like Dr. Cassidy mentioned, that we were invited into and we were invited to do that has been transformative for us. And we hope that is transformative for all of our students. Like Jordan mentioned, it has transformed our curriculum. In 2020, we also went through a major revisioning where now all of our curriculum has threads of Black theology, Black church history, womanist theology woven throughout all of the classes that are offered, so that there's not just one course in Black church studies, but in every course that's taken, students have the opportunity to learn from Black scholars and to read resources from the Black church and Black theologians and Black scholars. So because of that, our student body, our curriculum, everything has been transformed. So in receiving the McCall Award today, it was a really great recognition of that time. It was also a great encouragement to us to continue this work because we know it's not over. But it made us really proud to be able to see the work that our students really have been doing together and the journey that they've gone on together within the classroom, and to see how that has affected us as an institution and continues to do so.
Okay, excellent. And Jordan is an example of one of those students.
He is
being able to move forward in that direction. And you mentioned also the connection with Simmons College as well. So does your church have a direct connection with them as well? And
we do. Our church actually donates to Simmons. They're in our annual budget as a mission partner. And so we are so grateful for their presence as a HBCU in Louisville. They are a wonderful asset to our city, to our Commonwealth. And I would also say, as a BSK student, prior to COVID, when we went virtual, all of my classes that were in person at Simmons. And from my perspective as a white kid from Appalachia, Kentucky, it was wonderful for me to be in that space at Simmons, and to be around the table with classmates, to learn together, to grow together. It was just a really formative experience for me.
yeah, that's excellent. And so one last question to Abby. Abby, you mentioned in terms of different contexts of students and what have you, where is the context? I mean, is it all in Kentucky, or where is it? Where are they located? And where are they located? That's what I would ask.
Our students are not just in Kentucky, and that's another thing that has drastically changed over the last 4 years. Before the pandemic hit, we were already headed online. So I like to say, we were on Zoom before it was cool. We were already headed that way, and I think the pandemic just got us there faster. But that ability to offer theological education to students within their context and in their own place has allowed us to be able to bring students in from over 19 different states at this time. We have students everywhere from Louisiana to Texas. We have students in Missouri. And in fact, most of our students are not in Kentucky. I think we have less than 10 students in Kentucky, and everyone else is spread across the U.S. We recently, over the last couple of years, have had our first graduation commencement ceremonies that have included graduates who have done their full Master of Divinity degree remotely. And so because of that, they were able to travel to Kentucky this year and last year. And this year we had some more events and more of a homecoming weekend where students were able to come in and see each other, often for the first time, and able to meet and get to know these people they had journeyed with for over 75 credit hours or many years when they completed their degrees. And so being able to see those students physically travel and be able to hug each other and be in the room with each other, share a meal together, when for 3, 4, 5, 6 years they had been studying virtually with each other, was really powerful to see. But to answer your question, yes, we have students. The number changes depending on who you ask. It's somewhere between 19 and 20 different states, and we're continuing to grow our partnerships as well, so that we can have even further a reach within the U.S. And we're also even beginning to look into some international options as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you both, Jordan Conley and Abby Sizemore. Appreciate your time today. Again, this is Anthony Everett with BSK Theological Seminary, and we want to thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'm David Cassidy, the president at Baptist Seminary of Kentucky, or BSK as we call it. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I hope you will take a moment to make a contribution so that we can continue to make excellent content like this podcast and so many others that we have planned. You can do so by going to bsk.edu and click on the Give button. Thank you so much for your support.